Good evening. This is the February 10th, 2022 meeting of the St. Mary's County Board of Appeals, located in the Commissioners of St. Mary's County Meeting Room of the Chesapeake Building, 41770 Baldridge Street, Leonardtown, Maryland. I am Chairman Dan Nicniowski, and with 4 other board members present, we have met our minimum requirements for a quorum and will proceed with the meeting. Public meetings are now open to the public. In lieu of in-person attendance, citizens may listen to the meeting on their phones but not speak to the board by calling 1-301-579-7236 and then use the access code 963443#, or view the meeting remotely on Channel 95 or YouTube. If any non-in-person citizen would like to participate by talking to the board when I open the meeting to public testimony, please call the following number: 301-475-4200, extension 1234. When you call this number, Ms. Sherry Young, Recording Secretary, will ask your name, address, and email. In other words, this is a virtual sign-in sheet. Ms. Young will then place you in line on hold after I announce that I'm opening the hearing up to public testimony. I will open the meeting up for public testimony after all the presentations and testimony by the applicants and representatives have been completed. For both in-person calls, you will be asked to state your name, for both in-person here tonight or call-ins, you will be asked to state your name and address for the record, and I will swear you in. You will have 3 minutes to ask your question or make comments directly to the board. Your comments will be recorded and heard by those of us in the Chesapeake Building, Zoom participants, Channel 95, and on YouTube. After the public comment portion of the meeting is over, the cases will be returned to the board for any closing comments, members' discussion, and decision. We will now go through with some of the introductions, and I will begin with the board members themselves.
Good evening, Wayne Medinsky.
Good evening, Lynn Delahaye.
And again, I'm Dan Nicniowski.
Good evening, Rich Richardson.
Good evening, Guy Bradley.
Good evening, Steve Scott, Board Attorney.
And also we have our alternate member here, Mr. Payne, Ronald Payne, sitting in the back. St. Mary's County Government supporting staff in attendance will be Harry Knight, Deputy Director of Land Use and Growth Management, and Stacy Clements, Planner 3. St. Mary's County supporting staff will be John Hauser, is the Deputy County Attorney, and we have nobody else that we know of on call-in? No.
Right.
And in the video meeting control room, Amy Carter is the media producer, but here tonight is
Alex Huseman.
Alex Huseman. And then again, in the Savage Conference Room is Sherry Young. And then the applicants and representatives will introduce as we get to their cases. We have 3 public hearings tonight and cases on the agenda this evening. The first is the Ho property, VAAP 211062, and the applicant is requesting a variance from section 71.8.3 to disturb the critical area buffer and section 71.5.1B, paren 1, to disturb a non-tidal wetland buffer to construct a new home. The second case tonight will be the Mattingly property, VAAP 211154. The applicant requests a variance from section 71.8.3 to disturb critical area buffer and to construct additions to existing buildings, add existing driveways, and add a sidewalk. The third case tonight will be AAA Gravel Pit Expansion, CUAP 210116. The applicant is requesting conditional use approval pursuant to the Chapter 25 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance for use type 82 extractive industries. Before we start the hearing, for the viewers at home, you will be able to see the staff and applicants' presentations on 95 or YouTube, as these presentations are being shown. You can also see all of the documents that have been submitted for the case by going to Board Docs. Ms. Clements will now go through and explain how to use Board Docs. Stacy?
Good evening, Chairman. Okay, first you would navigate to stmarysmd.com. That's stmarysmd.com. And at the top of the page, you'll notice a ribbon with Board Docs on it. That'll navigate you to this page. And once you're on this page, we will look for tonight's meeting, which is the February 10th meeting of Board of Appeals. You bring that up, and in the bottom center, you'll find the agenda. Click on that, and that'll give us our agenda on the left-hand side. You can select one of the public hearings, and in the center of the page, you will notice all the exhibits and attachments are there for viewing.
Thank you very much, Stacy. We'll be ready to hear case one. Before we start, I'd like to ask Harry and Stacy to please stand and take the oath. You raise your right hand. Do you declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony, responses, and statements you may give will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. And you may go ahead with the staff presentation.
Okay. Good evening, Board. Tonight, we're here to hear VAAP 21-1062, the Hoe property. They are asking for variances from Section 71.8.3 and 71.5.1B1 to construct a new house on a vacant lot. The legal ad was printed in the local newspaper, Southern Maryland News, on January 21st and 28th of 2022. The county also posted the applicant posted the property and sent notifications to the neighbors within 200 feet on or before January 26, 2022. The owners are John Hugh and Yvonne Lee. The property is located at 16431 Thomas Road in Piney Point. It is in the Windsor Property Subdivision. The land use is rural preservation with tidal wetlands. The zoning is rural preservation district. It also has a resource conservation area overlay. And the property consists of 1.9 acres. As we can see by the location map here, it's on 16431 Thomas Road on St. George's Island. The zoning map depicts a rural preservation district. The existing conditions on this lot is vacant with trees and a gravel area and beach. They're proposing to construct a new house. The site plan has been approved by all agencies except the Soil Conservation District and MDE for the disturbance to the wetlands, and the Critical Area Commission does not oppose this variance request. The critical area buffer encompasses the entire property due to the expanded critical area buffer for the wetlands. We have a picture of the site plan. And with our detail here, we have Thomas Road here at the top. We're proposing a driveway and a house, and the river is located down here. The mitigation for this proposed project would be 6,908 square feet of permanent disturbance for 3-to-1, 5,138 square feet of temporary disturbance at 1-to-1, and 4,126 square feet of reforestation, also at 1-to-1. So a total of 29,988 square feet of planning would be required. A major buffer management plan for on-site planning must be approved by LUGM staff prior to the issuance of a building permit. Okay, and then we can go over the standards when the board is ready.
Yep, let's hold off
Perfect.
on it. Thank you. Do the board members have any questions?
No.
No.
And none at this time, it looks like. And then who will be representing Mr. and Ms. Ho?
Steve Vaughn with LSR.
Good evening, Steve. If you would please raise your right hand. Do you declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony, responses, and statements you may give will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed. Come on up, sit down.
Okay, as Stacy had stated, this is a variance for the Ho property located on St. George's Island at 16431 Thomas Road. And it is located on St. George's Island on the Potomac Riverside. Here's a tax map showing the property. It has road frontage on Thomas Road, and a private road, Harm's Way, transects the property to adjoining lots. This is a copy of the record plat that was done back in 2006 when this property was surveyed. There was an old mobile home on site, and there was also a site plan that was done at the same time that was approved, and it needed a variance and also wetland permits. All of those were obtained, but the project never took off. Here's a few photos of the site. This is looking at the gravel area where the open area of the property is. As you can see, just in the woods line there, that is where the proposed house will be, partially in the woods and partially in the open area. And right where the picture was taken here, this is on the other side of that open area. This would be approximately where the proposed driveway and the front right corner of the house would be. Here's a shot of the beach. We'll see the aerial photo later, and I'll describe or I'll show you how much erosion has taken place on this site. But there's significant erosion in this cove right here, and the property owners do have a permit to protect for their shoreline protection, and I believe they hope to get started on that soon. And here's just another shot of the eroded beach area. And this is looking down the river. You can see the what used to be well rings for the original shoreline protection. And another shot of the beach. And this is on the western side of the property, looking back at where the gravel area is, as well as the rear of the property. And this is another shot. This would be on the shoreline, but just beyond where the proposed house is. And this is just another shot showing that, the recent storms that we've had, lots of sand deposited up on the shore. And this is right where the house site is going to be, right on the edge of the existing gravel and on the edge of the woods here. Okay, here's the aerial photo. As you can see, the orange lines depict where the property lines were. As you can see, they're out in the water there. So there's been about 30 to 40 feet of shoreline loss in that cove area. All right. And for our site plan. So we sited the house. We tried to maintain at least 50 feet from the existing shoreline. And by doing that, we had to push the house into the edge of the wetlands in order to maintain that 50-foot buffer that we were trying to go for and the 25-foot front building restriction line. So we are in the process of getting a wetland permit to disturb the wetlands here on site. We're also doing a stormwater management plan for this. We have a 1,500-gallon cistern for rainwater harvesting to collect runoff off of the roof. And we also have various non-structural devices such as rooftop disconnects, non-rooftop disconnects, and sheet flow to conservation areas. This site is going to be connected to public sewer, and a well is proposed to be drilled. There is a new well on. There is an existing well on site, but unfortunately, because of all the erosion, it's literally on the shoreline. So that well will be abandoned, and a new well will be drilled. We're also asking for an RV stall to be placed in the existing gravel area. This is also in the buffer. This is for the property owners to stay in on weekends and also while the house is under construction. Let's see. I'd be happy to go over the standards for this, if you all have any questions.
Do the questions first.
Will the house be elevated at all?
Yes, sir. The house will be outside of the floodplain. The first floor will be at elevation 9, and the floodplain here, I believe, is elevation 5. Or is it 6?
Could you explain that a little better?
Yes, sir. So the 100-year flood elevation is
6.
AE6. So the 6 feet above sea level is what their estimated 100-year flood elevation is. And we're building the house at elevation 9, 3 feet above that, to the flood protection elevation.
Would you give the numbers again, please? I'm a little bit hard of hearing.
So the 100-year floodplain is at elevation 6 feet above sea level. And the first floor will be at elevation 9, which is 3 feet above the floodplain, which is required to meet the flood protection elevation.
Thank you.
Now, the RV plane, could you explain that?
So the RV stall is just for an RV to be parked on the property. It has to be screened, screened from the neighboring properties, either with fencing or with trees and shrubs.
Could we pull the site plan back up and show that maybe?
Sure. It is just to the southeast of the house site. It's on the existing gravel. It's the rectangle with the X through it, Stacy.
Right there.
Yep.
That'd be concrete?
It's just, there's an existing pad there, just a large gravel area, and it's just to be parked there.
Just on the gravel?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Vaughn, the screening in this case is the existing natural vegetation?
So there is no vegetation towards Thomas Road. So we will either have to plant trees in front of that or some sort of fencing.
Yeah, are there, I'm sorry, I'm reading the standards for, so this isn't really part of the variance request. A recreational vehicle doesn't, per these standards, does not need a variance on the condition that he meets these standards. So it has to be completely screened from view of dwellings on adjacent lots. And so are there adjacent dwellings on the other side of Thomas Road?
There is one dwelling directly across, and there's one to the south on Thomas Road.
Yeah.
Now, will parts of the existing gravel area be topsoiled and seeded?
There will be, a small portion of it will be where we're constructing the house is partially in the gravel area, and approximately 20 feet outside of the footprint is our limits of disturbance, and that part will be removed and seeded and topsoiled.
Okay.
Is there very much vegetation you got to remove a lot, or?
So there are a few trees in the wooded area. It's mostly not underbrush, but Phragmites, which is a wetland, like reeds. That's what's there. It's also an invasive species that has basically taken over that whole portion of all the forested area, not only on Mr. Ho's lot, but also on the neighboring lots as well.
And the mitigation, are you going to be able to plant that on the site, or?
So I believe Mr. Ho wants to do fees in lieu. We may be able to put some of it on the site, but I think the majority of it is going to be fees in lieu because the areas that we have left over are mostly wooded now.
Yeah, it's also challenging. MDE can provide advice, but it can be challenging to get the species to thrive in the wetlands. And so, and then that's additional disturbance of the wetlands. So it's not unusual when a site is so heavily impacted by wetlands that you would let the wetlands lie and pay a fee in lieu instead.
No other questions from the board? Would you like Dave to go through the conditions?
Do you want to open it up for public testimony first, or not?
Okay, let's open up for public testimony first. Anybody want to speak for or against this project? Would you check with
I can.
Joe?
Board of Appeals.
Ms. Young, do we have any callers for the Ho variance?
There are no callers at this time for this case.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If that's the case, I'll close the meeting to public testimony and go through the comments, the standards. So,
Okay. So are you going to pull it up, Stacy, or do you want me to just read off the letter?
Well, do you have your own slides on the standards? Or
I do not.
So she'll simply show our slides while you read.
Very good.
Okay. There we go.
Okay. Let's see.
Lon, am I in the right one? Nope.
Nope, I was
Hold
going
on.
to say.
I'm trying to gatefold. No.
That's the later case.
Yes. My apologies.
Does that look better?
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
All right, so standards for granting a variance. The first one, special conditions and circumstances that exist that are peculiar to the land or structure involved, and that strict enforcement of the critical area provisions of this ordinance would result in an unwarranted hardship. The property does lie 100% within the critical area buffer. We are proposing a modest footprint for the house, similar to those adjoining the property. And we have we have minimized the limits of disturbance as much as we can. All right. And the strict interpretation of the critical area provisions of this ordinance will deprive the applicant the right commonly enjoyed by other properties in similar areas within the critical area of St. Mary's. So there are other parcels that have been developed in the critical area adjoining the property and all throughout all the parcels along St. George's Island. The granting of the variance will not confer upon an applicant any special privilege that would be denied by the critical areas provisions of this ordinance to other lands or structures within the critical area of St. Mary's. The property is a recorded parcel in an existing area constrained by zoning and the critical area provisions. Other property owners under this circumstance would also have the opportunity to file for a variance to seek relief. The variance request is not based upon conditions or circumstances that are the result of actions by the applicant. So the difficulty was not created by the property owners or their predecessors, but as a result in the change of regulations that this parcel had predated. Okay, the granting of this variance will not adversely affect water quality or adversely impact fish, wildlife, or plant habitat within the critical area, and that the granting of this variance will be in harmony with the general spirit and intent of the critical area program. We have minimized the limits of disturbance as much as we can. During construction, there's a sediment erosion control plan that will be in place. Silt fence and super silt fence will be used to capture the any erosion or sediment runoff during construction. Okay, and the variance is the minimum necessary to achieve the reasonable use of this land. We believe that this is a reasonably sized house and similar sized house to the houses in the area, and again, we tried to minimize our impact as much as we could.
I did have one more question.
Sure.
You mentioned they were going to do something to stop the beach erosion.
Yeah, so they have a shoreline protection plan, seawall and riprap, I believe, is what the plan entails to protect that shoreline.
And they want to get started on that right away.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the board members on the conditions?
Make a motion.
I guess we're ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion. In the matter of VAAP 21-1062, having made a finding that the standards for granting a variance and the objectives of Section 24.4 of the St. Mary's County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance have been met, I move to approve the variance request from Section 71.8.3 and 71.5.1B1 to construct the house.
I second it.
Okay. Mr. Guy?
Aye.
Yes.
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 Okay.
I'd get started on that seawall real quick.
Okay, as you can see, the board has approved tentatively your project. An order reflecting the board's decision will be prepared by staff and signed by the board within 60 days. A 30-day period follows from that date. The order is signed, during which any aggrieved party may appeal the board's decision to the circuit court. The recording secretary will email you a copy of the order when it has been signed. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Well done, Steve.
Thanks, Harry.
See you next time.
The next item on the agenda is Mattingly Property, VAAP 21-1154. The applicant's requesting a variance from Section 71.8.3 to disturb the critical area buffer, to construct additions to existing buildings, add to the existing driveway areas, and add a sidewalk. We're going to start with the applicant first? Or you guys still want to make a presentation?
We do not have a presentation, and the applicant's attorney would like to request a continuance.
Okay. Mr. Longmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here on behalf of the applicants, and Kelly Mattingly, one of the applicants, is here in the room as well. This is a critical area after the fact variance that they're working on relating to some work that was done on their property before they owned it. There is a planning agreement that needs to be approved by the county and bonded before this board has the authority to hear the variance. We were hopeful that would be done by tonight, but even though my client's been working toward that, we're not quite ready tonight to do that. We're therefore asking for a continuance to your next regularly scheduled board meeting, which will be on March 10th, I believe, in this room at 6:30. And we've cleared that date with staff this afternoon.
Any questions?
No, sir.
I guess we need a quick motion to do the continuance.
So the recommended motion that's in the staff report said March 17th, so you could use that recommended motion, but change the date to March 10th.
Okay.
Because it is important, as Mr. Longmore stated, but the board needs to state the date, time, and location of the
Right.
meeting.
I'll make a motion to grant the continuance to March
You
10th.
wanna- It's in here.
Oh, okay.
If you would just read it.
Oh. Still learning.
On page 2, section 4, about an inch down.
So in the matter of VAAP number 21-1154, having made a finding that the board cannot hear the case until the applicant has prepared a mitigation plan and performed the abatement measures in the approval plan, I move to continue this hearing to March 10th
Yep.
at 6:30 PM here in the Chesapeake Building Meeting Room.
Second.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you for putting that in there. The next case, case number 3, is a AAA gravel pit expansion, CUAP 21-0116. The applicant is requesting conditional use approval pursuant to Chapter 25 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance for a Type 82 use extractive industry. And who will be speaking tonight? You want to?
We do have a presentation
Okay,
for this.
let us go then forward with that.
Okay. CUAAP 21-0116, AAA pit expansion. They're requesting a conditional use approval pursuant to Chapter 25 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance for the expansion of an existing use type 82, the extractive industry. The legal ad was printed in the local newspaper, Southern Maryland News, on January 21st and 28th of 2022. The applicant posted the property and sent notification to the neighbors within 200 feet prior to January 26, 2022. The owner of the property is F&S Farm LLC. Mr. Troutman and Mr. Longmore will be representing them. The location of the property is at 42919 St. Andrews Church Road in Leonardtown. It is land use rural preservation within rural preservation district zoning. They're proposing to an expansion of their use 82 extractive industry. The property is located on St. Andrews Church Road between Leonardtown and California. The land use is rural preservation, which leads us to the zoning use of rural preservation district. The existing conditions. They have an existing paved haul road that leads to an existing gravel pit 1 and gravel pit 2. They're proposing a third gravel pit, 5-acre gravel pit in this area. The nearest dwelling unit is approximately 500 feet from the proposed gravel pit. Okay, the existing improvements. Existing sand and gravel operation is served by existing paved road, which provides direct access onto St. Andrews Church Road. They're proposing an expansion for an additional 5 acres called Gravel Pit 3. And the site plan, we have gravel, well, let's go to the detail. We have the haul road will be coming in through here. This is Gravel Pit 1. We got Gravel Pit 2, and here's Gravel Pit 3. This has gone through the minor site plan review. Maryland State Highway Administration and the Department of Public Works and Transportation have approved the plan. Land Use and Growth Management and Soil Conservation District plan reviews are still ongoing. There will be a mandatory mining permit and license requirement to be issued by the Maryland Department of Environment for surface mine operation. And then we've got the conditions. Would you like to hear the conditions now or a little later?
Little later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
We're doing pit number 3, is that correct?
Correct.
And pit 1 and 2 will be closed out at the same time, if I remember correctly?
No.
Probably best to have the applicant answer that
Thank you.
question.
Okay. Any other questions from the board members?
No.
Not yet.
Yeah, when did the first one start? How long has it been in existence in this?
There has been mining on this property dating back to 1952, and maybe beyond. But the county GIS aerial photos show a consistent, never abandoned sand and gravel mining operation on this property, ebbing and flowing, but back to 1952.
Been in existence for a long time then?
Certainly, and it's been before this board. Pit 1 came before the board, Pit 2 came before the board. The applicant did a good job of including the Pit 2 approval from October 27th, 2011. The board's order is actually incorporated as part of the site plan.
Any other questions? The applicant, who's going to be representing the applicant? Mr. Troutman, before we get started, would you remain standing and raise your right hand? Raise your right hand. There we go. Do you declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony, responses, and statements you may give will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Do. Thank you. Mr. Longmore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank you again. Here on behalf of the applicant with this request for the conditional use approval. We do have a PowerPoint presentation to provide. Mr. Troutman, who is the surveyor and representative of the applicant, is also here to answer questions as we go through, if you have any factual questions on the application. If we go to the next slide, please, Stacy. Just to describe the request a little bit, the property, again, is located on 42919 St. Andrews Church Road in Leonardtown. As mentioned, it's been mined for many years, for decades. And in 2011, as Mr. Knight just mentioned, Pit 2 was approved by this board with certain conditions. Those are listed on the site plan, be made part of this application as well. It's in the upper left-hand corner, and we'll see that on our slides. The site contains, I'm sorry, Stacey.
I'm sorry.
The site contains about 144 acres. Do you mind going back a slide?
Yeah.
Of land.
I'm trying.
That's good.
Something's, there we go.
There we go. Thank you. As mentioned, there are two pits on the property already that were approved during different conditional use approvals by this board. And that this one is a new 5-acre mining area. And the prior mining areas will be stabilized as we go. Mr. Troutman can talk about the plan and the timing of that. And the proposed use, as I know this board is well aware, as I've been in front of you recently on similar requests, is heavily regulated by MDE, and my client will need to meet all of their requirements. Much of the regulation of this is state law regulated as opposed to county. The county does have its normal zoning approval authority and has the authority to approve this conditional use application, but many of the requirements are preempted by state law, so those state rules will apply, and my client will need to meet those in order to begin the mining activity. If we go to the next slide. This is another aerial photo, kind of blown up a little bit, where you can see the mining activity already being done on the site. And if you go to the kind of right of the area, you can see that's mined. That's where pit number 3 will be located generally in that area. We go to the next slide. These are some photos. I know that the board always wants to confirm the access and any issues. That is a traditional zoning consideration. I know the board is often concerned with that. These are photos that were taken yesterday of the entrance showing the sight lines, both to the left as you pull out on the photo to the left, and to the right, as you can see, they're going into the property. If we go to the next slide. This is on the left is a view of the access road coming in, and on the right is a little closer up version. As mentioned, it is a paved access road that has been used for this use for many years, for decades, but it's been used for many years in relation to these conditional uses. If we go to the next slide. This is from inside the site looking out of that road, so you can see that there is a significant access road to get anywhere near the mining activities. One of the factual facts that support the standards that we need to prove tonight are that it is shielded and doesn't affect the drivers going by. This cannot be seen from the road, either in the winter or in the summer. It's properly shaded from Maryland Route 4 or St. Andrews Church Road. If we go to the next slide. So this is the GIS map with the land use overlay on top of it. It is rural preservation, land use and rural preservation district as a zoning. As mentioned in the staff report, one of the standards, or a couple of the standards, relate to this complying with the zoning district within which the property is located, as well as to satisfy the comprehensive plan, and that's where the land use map comes in. Extractive and mining industry is heavily encouraged in those areas in the rural preservation district as one of our planning tools to make sure that we are able to extract the materials like this that are needed for the county. And we believe that this shows that we're within that rural preservation district. If we go to the next slide. The proposed site plan, we'll show you those slides. I know that you have it in your packet. Again, it includes the conditions that were implemented for the 2011 approval put. It will be using, again, the existing entrance and access. There are no anticipated added trips, only continuing the use that's already on the property. So this is not an expansion in terms of the number of trucks that'll be coming out of there. It's simply going to the next part of the property where they'll be able to extract the material that's there now that much of the material is extracted from pits 1 and 2 that is useful for their needs. It will be seeded and stabilized. Any topsoil will be stockpiled and seeded and stabilized on the site. That's listed in those conditions. No topsoil will be removed from the site as the mining occurs. And on the site plan, there is the summary of sequencing of mining and the reclamation of the site. And again, I know there might be a question or two. Mr. Troutman's here to answer that as we have questions when we're done. If we go to the next slide, this is the front page of the site plan. I know this is in your packages. You can see that dark access road. I believe that's the paved area of the road leading into the site. Pit 1 is right there kind of toward the end of that, and pit 2 goes beyond it, and then pit 3 will be on the furthest end of the site. So that's how the mining has progressed on the site. If we go to the next slide. And the upper left-hand corner of that slide was those conditions from 2011, if you have any questions about them. This is the other, much of the technical requirements, soil and erosion control notes, and general notes. And on the middle, the far right of that page shows the mining and reclamation sequence of construction relating to pit 3. And again, if the board has any questions about that, Mr. Troutman's happy to answer them. If we go to the next slide. We'll get into the conditional use standards, and I'll be happy to address them as we go. Again, this is a site that has been mined for many, many years. Mr. Troutman can confirm that there's never been any violations issued by MDE on the site in all the years that they've been operating it. It's a good resource for our county, and it is something that is needed. I know that I've presented that information to you at other hearings, that it's a very active site because our county needs these materials in order to do construction and infrastructure within the county. It will remain the use that it is now, and there will be no intensity added to it. It'll only be moved to the next part of the property. So we would request that this is approved, and I'll be happy to address the standards either now or once public testimony is over. And Mr. Troutman is here if you have specific questions about the site plan.
Yes, Mr. Troutman, when the trucks exit the property, will the majority make right-hand turns or left-hand turns?
Well, it depends on the project, where we're going to. It's hard to tell. Some are on the other side of Lettertown, and some are down below Lexington Park, some are on the base.
Okay.
We use the pit as the material is required to use. We can't dictate.
Okay.
So.
Has there been any history of accidents at all?
Not to my knowledge, no. No.
Some days it's a very busy road.
I beg your pardon?
Say some days it's a very busy road.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of sight distance there, and we don't find it a problem getting in and out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Medinski, you got questions?
I've got a lot of questions.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm very familiar with it. I've obtained mason sand, which is not building sand. It's the difference. This is not a wash plant, though, right?
No, it is not. We have no processing other than the screening of the various soils to downsize it or make it what we need to have, but no wash plant, no water.
And you have material there that you sell that you don't actually produce there. I mean, it's brought in to be sold. That's
a separate operation from the pits.
I can speak to that, Mr. Medinsky. As I said earlier, this site has been a sand and gravel mine for a great many years. Now, in 1990, well, let me back up a little bit. So there was a wash plant on the property in the past. 1993, they replaced a truck fueling tank. at the existing wash plant. 1994, there was a concrete batch plant that replaced, So this is, when it comes to the safety concern, I personally drive by this site twice a day on my way to work and on my way back. It's been a fixture of the community for decades, and so anyway, I personally have never seen any accidents related to that location. Sorry if that was premature, you haven't opened it up to public testimony. But in 1998, AAA Materials requested and received an after-the-fact zoning authorization to sell aggregate materials such as gravel, sand, CR6, bluestone, and they've been doing it ever since. So that is a separate independent zoning use, which is not the location of the proposed pit that is on the same property.
And those two areas are clearly delineated on different plans?
I would say that, well, number one, that area is not shown on this plan.
Right.
Because it's a separate part of the property and functions independently without the mining interfering with it or it interfering with the mining.
There's another plan that delineates that area?
Do I have a plan from 1998 that shows a confined space for AAA? No, the microfiche file did not include one. I don't think it was requested by the Department of Planning and Zoning at the time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now this part here shows the decision, and it's got, 16 conditions?
That was the conditions you imposed in the last time we were here.
Yeah, and I was part of that. Condition number 6.
There shall be no burning on site except for trees and other wood products derived.
Now, do we allow that still?
No, sir. Trees and stumps, et cetera, are now considered, well, it's really the state of Maryland that doesn't allow it. Trees and stumps are considered solid waste, and it's illegal to burn solid waste in the state of Maryland.
So that one should read just, there shall be no burning on site.
Yeah, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Troutman, he wasn't trying to suggest that these should be the conditions for this request. He was just providing evidence of the ongoing approval and the fact that it had been previously approved. Yeah. But by all means, we have our new sample conditions that would not include the burning.
I know, but Mr. Longmore had said that, we had these conditions already. And it's
from the 2011 approval.
Yeah, well, I don't want those to be part of, I want to correct these.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's dated there, too.
So that was just no burning on site.
All right, so
And it said, I'm just trying to clean up things here. Number 11, now there's no buildings constructed, but there is a weight scale and stuff there. And I mean, I'm not saying I have a problem with it, but there is a building there.
Not part of the pit.
I know it's not part of the pit.
Right, there were no buildings constructed as part of this conditional use approval in 2011. I believe that building was already existing at the time.
It was already existing
2011.
there.
So there was nothing built as part of this approval.
And then number 14, it's just kind of misspelling and that kind of stuff.
It'll be listed on the final site plan.
Tall conditions as opposed to all conditions.
Yeah, all conditions of approval shall be listed on the.
Kisted?
Yeah, kissed.
Shall be kissed. on the
Getting
final
close
site
to
plan.
Valentine's Day.
We just copied it.
I understand.
Did the best we could.
But I'm just trying to clean that up before we
Right, certainly.
continue on through this.
Yeah, the normal procedures, should your board approve this conditional use tonight, is that staff would ask Mr. Troutman to put tonight's conditions on the final site plan. These 2011 conditions, could be replaced. Really don't need to be on this site plan, but they were valuable
No, but the.
information.
This
Yeah.
submission.
Yes, because this is a proposed site plan, it's not the final site plan.
Absolutely.
But where I'm headed with this is one of them we normally don't do. We don't usually do the Saturday having it open. And for this particular business, it needs to be. And it's been a big part of the, I mean, I've went there Saturdays lots of times to get building sand, and I'd love for that to continue. But normally, as a pit, we don't allow that.
But you're getting building sand from AAA Materials.
Right.
And AAA Materials is not requesting the conditional use tonight. So that's a good distinction to make, is that should you have your normal condition that the pit may not operate on Saturdays except for maintenance, you're not suggesting that AAA Materials not operate on Saturday.
Exactly right. I'm just cleaning this up a little bit.
Right.
For the record.
For the record. And the only other thing that I noticed, and I don't really have a lot of problem with it, because I know this has been going on for I don't know how long, but there are a lot of masonry materials being stored, and I'm sure that's part of the other operation, I guess.
Storage, we have storage on the property.
Yeah.
There's a lot of storage. Yes.
What else is there other than the masonry?
Up on the hill, there's some material that we make, store some riprap or something for later use. If we don't bring it in, we don't have it available, so we have to store it somewhere.
Okay.
Some millings for your driveways and stuff that people love the millings.
Yeah, I know this is kind of a combination thing working here.
Yeah, we try to serve everybody.
Yeah, well, the AAA Materials is clearly a retail operation, and the millings would be part of that operation for certain. I would agree with you that there does appear to be some construction material stored on site, which is not part of extractive industry, nor is it part of the retail sales.
No.
So a simple solution would be to amend the site plan to include construction material equipment yard, which is allowed as a limited use in the RPD, and the only limitation is no stockpile equipment or material shall be visible from a public road or an adjacent property. And based on my visual review of the aerial photos, that limit is currently met.
No, I'm just one voice. I can't speak for the board. But what's there, I don't have a problem with, and just cleaning this up. But I don't want it expanded. I don't want it to start encompassing other things.
Well, interesting point to bring up, because the construction material equipment yard is not a conditional use. And so the expansion of the construction material equipment yard, should the site plan be amended and approved by the Department of Land Use and Growth Management for that use, would not come before this board for request to expand. It's the extractive industry that requires the conditional use, and that's the reason we're here this evening, to expand the extractive industry conditional use.
Yeah. And I'm all good for that. That just bothers me that they have a storage area there that has nothing to do with anything, gravel extraction or anything.
Easily resolved with an amendment to the site plan.
Well, okay. Y'all go ahead.
To the conditional use site plan?
Well, that would be Mr. Troutman as the applicant's option. He could amend the site plan. I suppose you could make it a condition of approval that the site plan be amended. But if you don't make that a condition and he's not interested in amending it, it could be an independent site plan. It is interesting when you have mixed uses on a property. And the only thing I would say they share in common is the access road to Route 4.
What was the property zoned again?
It's zoned RPD.
Well, the pit is an entity by itself, and
Yeah.
we'd like to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Because that's strictly by the owners.
I think, I don't know, maybe it's me. I don't want to be confused, but we're here about this one piece of land that you want to continue to mine gravel, period. has nothing really to do with expanding your retail operation.
No,
So
ma'am.
really, all we really
Exactly
need to
right.
look at is, can he dig some more holes in this ground and get the gravel out? That's it.
A hole
That's
in the
really
ground.
Well, big holes.
Big hole in the ground.
Right, okay.
Oh,
These
by the way,
conditions-
and we are reclaiming this pit too.
Right.
4.8 acres has been reclaimed this year alone.
So then
So
those,
that takes over the first pit.
Exactly.
This is a continuous pit, even though it's 1, 2, and 3. There's not 3 pits.
Right, they're not new
we
holes.
really can't,
It's one pit, just called 1, 2, and 3.
right, and we really don't really need to concern ourselves with those conditional uses for this one, because that's going to be reclaimed and done. That's
You're
going to be.
perfectly right.
Right, okay.
Right.
But we could use these conditions for Pit 3, too.
Say that again, Dan?
We could make these were conditions of Pit 2.
Yes, make those
We could
conditions.
make those for Pit 3 also.
Yes, you can.
But why would you need to? He's not going to do anything different. It's a whole different setup.
Well, one of the things that you folks have to understand, this pit, this not only goes to you guys here, or, sorry, folks,
No, that's okay. You can call me a guys. I don't care.
it also goes to the Maryland Department of Environment, who will regulate this from this point.
Right.
From your approval point, I hope, from that point on. So I have to go by their guidelines, and they want a pit, and that's what they look for.
So all we're doing is approving, if we agree to that, is to
an ongoing-
approve that we can use this land to mine more gravel, and then you have to meet all the other requirements from the state.
Yes, ma'am, yes,
Okay.
ma'am, and there's a document
Good.
about that thick that
I just want to clean
I
that
have
up.
to go by. You know well, Dan.
And as Mr. Troutman mentioned, it's really a continuation of the pit in the area that's already being mined right now. It's not a new pit on a different part of the property. It's really, they've gotten to that point where they now need to
Just
get that
running out,
material.
that's all.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, in this case, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's truly an expansion of the existing pit. It's not like they're moving to a new location on the same property. It's just at the end of the hole's being expanded.
Well, it's my fault. Poor choice of title.
And as Mr. Troutman testified, to make sure the board members heard, almost 5 acres has been reclaimed this year of Pit 1, where that is. So they are reclaiming the portion that they're no longer mining, and that'll be continuous until they mine through Pit 3 and reclaim that.
Yes, because one of the requirements that are in the MDE permit are that I can bring clean fill back into the pit to supplement the hole in the ground.
Yeah. If we had more recent aerials, that would be evident, but we're seeing something that's, over 2 years old.
Yeah, it's a 2020 or
Yeah.
early 2020.
2020.
Sorry, didn't mean to leave you out.
Good, good. Any questions? Well, I would think it's time for, you want to go through the standards and how you meet those
You want to
standards?
do public testimony first or not?
Let's hear this first, and the
Okay.
public also might want to comment on that.
Okay, certainly. So we can use the slides, or I can just kind of run through them from the, but maybe have them up just so it's visible to the public if anybody's watching. So the first conditional use standard is that it complies with the standards of the district in which it is to be located, and the standards applicable to that use. As mentioned, this is the Rural Preservation District. The regulations are intended to foster agricultural, forestry, and more importantly for this application, mineral resources extraction. Extractive use is an allowed use in that area, and with a total area of more than 5 acres can be approved as conditional use by this board. So by coming to you and getting the approval, we satisfy the standards for that district. The second standard is the establishment, maintenance, and operation of the conditional use will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, convenience, morals, order, or general welfare. As Mr. Troutman has testified, and as the staff report and his written submission also highlight, this is heavily regulated, not just by the county in this case with the conditional use, but state and federal authorities as well. And it has met all approvals that are necessary, as mentioned in the staff report of the agencies, with the exception of soil conservation that has said it is approvable pending the conditional use being granted. The third standard is the conditional use will not be injurious to the use or enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purpose purposes already permitted and will not substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood. Again, the mine will be approximately 500 feet from the nearest residence, and this use has been on this property. This use or very similar uses have been on it for decades, so we don't believe this will injure the neighborhood in any way. As Mr. Knight eloquently said, this has been part of the neighborhood and kind of a fixture in the neighborhood for decades. The proposed use at the proposed location will not have adverse effects above and beyond those inherently associated with the proposed use, irrespective of its location within the mining district. This use is on a road that is accessible and a good road for trucks to travel on. It's been there for a long time. The gravel mine is also far enough off the road where even though we drive by it every day, you never see the gravel operation occurring. So we believe that it does satisfy that standard. Adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and/or necessary facilities have been or are being provided. Again, land use and growth management through their site plan process ensures that there are adequate utilities and road access. We've shown you the photos, and I know many of the members have driven by. There are adequate entrances and roads to serve this property, and MDE does administer the surface mining program. And we'll also ensure that through the MDE inspections that occur regularly at this mine. Adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress following a design that minimizes traffic congestion to the public streets. Again, this fronts Maryland Route 4, St. Andrews Church Road, which is a state-owned and maintained road, and it does have the existing ingress and egress. And to highlight again, we're not adding trips to it, we're just moving to the next phase of the mine to continue the consistency and the frequency of the trips that are already being used on the site. The proposed conditional use is not contrary to the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. Section 5.12 of the plan relates to mineral resources, as mentioned in the staff report. Mineral resource extraction, primarily mining of sand and gravel, which is part of this, is recognized as an important economic activity, and regulations shall encourage the utilization of these resources. This site, where it's been done for decades, we think that it's very consistent with the plan to utilize the remaining material on the site. And also 5.1 or 5.12.1 also includes additional support of mining activities, as well as 5.12.2 in the comprehensive plan. The last of the 8 conditions is the conditional use shall, in all other respects, conform to the applicable regulations of the district in which it is located, or to the special requirements established for conditional uses. Again, the standards for extractive industry require a commercial site plan, and that the conditional use approval be approved by this board. The mining regulations allow the disturbance within 25 feet of the property boundaries, and and we're in compliance with that. So for all those reasons, we believe we meet the 8 standards. If there is public comment, we're happy to address any of their concerns as well. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? I will now open it up to public testimony. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak for or against the project? Can we check with Ms. Young?
Yes, sir.
Board of Appeals.
Ms. Young, do we have any callers for AAA gravel pit expansion?
We do not have any callers for this case at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll close the meeting to public testimony and open it up to board discussion, decision, questions, comments, concerns.
I still had a few more questions.
Mr. Medinsky.
Even though these are 2 separate things, it's still the same owner, and I mean, it's all one person owns all this.
Yeah, same person, the Goldfur family owns the whole, all the property.
Right. So it's still all one thing, in my opinion. It's not.
It's certainly one property. I think there's a lot of other examples of, and this is how I got my head around it. There are other properties where there's other uses all throughout the county. Oftentimes they're enclosed in buildings, right? You might have a shopping center that's owned by one entity, but has a bunch of different uses that are allowed on it within the district. That's how I kind of view it, even though it's different in the nature of the uses. That's how I got my head around having the different uses that are on the same.
I understand that, but gravel extraction, this is all I was trying to do. I was trying to separate it and clean it up some. Because you're getting things that we normally don't give to other gravel extraction. Anybody else that's doing this. We never open it to Saturday business.
I don't think they're proposing to open the gravel pit to Saturday business. And mixed uses is something that contemporary zoning encourages. We create mixed-use zones for that express purpose. When a property is so large as this and certain portions of the property have potentially been mined out, the property owner has the right to seek approval for additional uses, and that's what they did in 1998. AAA Materials applied for a permit to establish the separate independent use, and yet the mining continued on the other parts of the property. So I think the site plan makes it clear that the request before you is only the mining operation.
Right. Yeah, I understand that. I don't have a problem with that. It's just kind of foggy there in somewhere.
Well, it sounds like what probably should have been done back in '98 is prepare a site plan of some sort for the other area. But I mean, it wasn't done at the time, so we don't have it.
With other mining operations, sorry to interject again, but it's my nature. Almost every mining operation that comes before you has a mixed use. There's typically a house on it, right? A farmhouse.
Oh, yeah.
And you've had questions before about how the proposed mine will affect the existing house. I remember one not too long ago where the testimony came out that the person who lives in the house is a tenant. And so how are they going to are they going to want to keep? But anyway, the net result was that house is already there. The extractive industry is allowed by conditional use. They've met the standards. The mine was approved.
Yeah, and our zoning ordinance allows more than one primary use on a property, so that's what opens the door to that approval to be there. I hear Mr. Hunt say that often before the Planning Commission when there's more than one asked for. So this is one where the use has already been approved prior to coming in. So that's where they completely are separate. The site plan that we have before you does show just the mining operation. That's all we're here asking for tonight. We're not addressing the other one.
I would like to use these same conditions, other than the 2 or 3
Right.
corrections and.
I would agree with that. I would like to do the same thing, too. The existing conditions, you have one here. That's fine.
Use these.
So if we approve the condition, if we approve this, do we negate those previous conditions?
No.
So they're going to be already there, right? We don't need to add them to
Don't forget,
this.
these existing conditions are for Pit 2.
Okay.
So what we're
this is
doing is
about
we're
Pit 2.
extending them to Pit 3.
Okay.
And now we don't have to worry about where the line for Pit 1 and Pit 2 is, because all of it's has the same set of conditions.
Okay. Yeah, I agree.
But I would like to add one condition that's not here, and it concerns the masonry storage area, that it not be expanded to include anything else.
But that's not part of this.
Well, I know that.
No.
I know it's not. That's just me, that's
But-
all.
I mean, I agree with.
But other than that, all the other conditions were good, wasn't it? Just what I stated.
Wayne, if we try to put that condition in there, are we setting a precedent of trying to regulate something that's not before the board? That's my question with your condition.
I like the way you phrased that. This board, because construction material equipment yard is not a conditional use, This board, I would say, doesn't have the purview to regulate that. It's the Department of Land Use and Growth Management who is the authority having jurisdiction over expansion of any use in the county, the establishment of any use in the county. And so it would go before the Department of Land Use and Growth Management should they want to get approval for that use and then in the future approve that, expand that use.
And if such a size of that area, it may have to go to Planning Commission for approval too.
Yes, yeah, right. I mean,
Plan
they would follow the zoning ordinance requirements, and when dictated, it would go to the Planning Commission.
Mr. Scott?
Yeah, and I would concur with what Mr. Knight just said. The CZO just does not put that other use, that retail and storage use, does not put that within the jurisdiction of this board.
I personally think the way it's written, the way it's proposed is the right way that we should address it. He did not ask to expand anything else. He just wants to keep digging up hole. So I think the way it's written, that's the way we should address it tonight. Do we approve this conditional use? Yes or no? And he's not asking to expand it, he's not asking to sell it, he's just asking to continue the backhoe to dig a little bit further.
I don't have a problem with any of that.
Okay, then let's make a motion.
No, well, I'm trying to just clean this up a little bit, that's all. See, we're doing this.
Propose something that we can't do it.
This is something, I've sat in on probably 30 of these. And we always propose how many loads a day, how many trips a day. See, this is a different thing. We're not doing the same as we do other gravel mining.
But those conditions are already included in the ones that are on this plan.
Right.
Are they?
Right,
So-
in the 2011 conditions, if they're adopted for this, which again, Mr. Troutman said he's fine with, it says the number of truckloads per day average 50, and the average shall be computed monthly. So there are an average number of trips that are there, and there are also the,
Had a water truck requirement in here on those conditions? I forget which one it was, but it's.
No, they do a fine job with that. They got a stream running right down there, and they do a good job of keeping the dust down.
And their whole road is paved.
Right.
right.
So we just adopt
We met those conditions.
the previous conditions.
Yeah.
You know, we keep the word kiss in there because it's just funny.
We'll define what that
Valentine's.
means later.
That's it. No, we just adopt the previous conditions into this one and
With my corrections?
with the minor corrections.
Okay.
Yeah, need the corrections.
Did somebody get those corrections?
Well, he wanted number 6 removed,
Right.
Well, just,
because number 6 is about the burning.
yeah, there shall be no burning, and just stop it at that.
No burning on site.
Okay, so amend number 6 to say there should be no burning on site, period.
And then number 11 it says no buildings, but there's already one there, so I don't know how you
But
want
the
it.
building's not on
Not
this
on that.
site. It's
And
on the-
not in the
Not
mine.
on the site that we're talking about.
Okay,
Well,
it's all one site.
well, that is true. By definition of the zoning ordinance, it is all one site. But, so would you want to insert a word of the
Existing,
mining site?
It's not in the pit area.
just the existing, what's existing, no more than what's existing maybe, or what.
Well, there are no
buildings?
existing buildings in the pit area, right?
Not in the
Yeah.
pit area, I know.
Right, right. And it's the pit area where they can't build more buildings. I mean,
Okay.
Elsewhere on the property, they could apply for a building permit.
They'd have to go through permitting to.
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get
Just
that.
leave that one alone, that's fine.
Well, if you wanted to clarify, there shall be no buildings constructed on site in the pit area?
Okay.
As shown on the
Oh,
site.
it actually goes on to say for the purpose of the mining operation.
Right.
So I think it already covers it.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
Somebody could come in with a permit for a different
One
use.
day, this will all be reclaimed, and this will be put back somewhat the original where it was, a little lower maybe. It'll be in farm fields, and we'll start over again. Not in my time now.
So the chairman was asking if there were any other corrections we needed to make, and so you wanted to get rid of the
been
capital
saying that
T
for
at
years.
all?
Right.
Number 14, there's a capital T at the beginning. And all conditions of
Listed.
approval shall be listed is the intended word. Listed on the final site plan.
Okay.
Okay.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. In the matter of CUAP number 21-0116, AAA pit expansion, having made a finding that standards for granting a conditional use and the objectives of section 51.3.82 of the St. Mary's County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance have been met with the corrected conditional uses.
With the addition of the
Pre-existing
conditions.
corrected conditional uses, yeah.
Have you want to make that right? Have been met. And I move to approve the request for expansion of the existing conditional use type 82 extractive industry. That make sense?
With the same conditions?
Yeah, I
Right.
said that.
Right,
Okay.
As amended.
as amended.
Right.
Okay, as amended.
I second it.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
okay. An order reflecting the board's decision will be prepared by staff and signed by the board within 60 days. 30-day period follows from that date. The order is signed, during which any aggrieved party may appeal the board's decision to circuit court. Recording secretary will mail you a copy of the order once it has been signed. Thank you and good luck, guys.
Much, thank you. I'm sitting up there.
While they're walking away, let me talk about it behind their backs. The
Bob.
The other part of the property used for the sale of the sand and the stone and all that,
AAA materials.
isn't that a retail sale, and is that allowed in the RPD?
It's fascinating, isn't it? But it was approved in 1998, and under a different ordinance. We'd have to go back to what the 1990 ordinance said. But it did request and obtained approval, and it's been operating. So the use may be non-conforming from today's.
So if it's expanded, it still have to come back to the board.
If it is a non-conforming use at the time of its expansion, that is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. When I was talking about expansion, I was talking about the construction material equipment yards. Yeah. So it would be difficult to judge the size of an expansion of a non-delineated use.
Actually, the non-delineated, that's good words.
Okay. We have minutes to approve. Has everybody had a chance to look at them? And any questions, comments, concerns?
Make a motion, we approve the minutes.
I have a second.
The minutes came in late. I glanced through them real fast, but I didn't find anything wrong with them.
Motion,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the two, if I can get, help me keep this one straight. We had two orders to sign after corrections, and Mr. Scott and I did that this afternoon, just before the meeting, for the Brackett subdivision order and also for the Dollar General Mechanicsville order. So I think we got those straight, signed and sealed. And for tonight, we only have two orders, as I understand, Hodgkins and the King order, and then also the Potee order. So let's do one at a time. Hodgkins, and King order. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, or changes to that?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Motion to approve?
Yeah, make a motion to sign the order.
It's okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then the next one is for Mr. Potee, order off of, for his piece of property down, can't remember the name of the subdivision down there.
But it's in Lexington Park.
Right, in Lexington Park. For the construction of a second story to an existing structure.
Make a motion to sign that order.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye, okay. And those were the only two we had for right now? Okay, next meeting is
Next
next
week.
week. And what's on the agenda for that?
You have the very complicated legal questions regarding Pisante Close in the critical area buffer.
And that's because they had many comments from the critical area.
Critical Area Commission, and it's a situation where where there's an excess of lot coverage that was not created by the current property owner, but the current property owner would like to add more without removing any. So it's a lot coverage variance, as well as some disturbance in the 100-foot buffer.
Well, just like we saw tonight with the other case, the Mattingly's, is this going to be the same sort of thing where he can't go forward until he has a mitigation plan?
No, and this one already was scheduled for the board, and this one is not considered a violation in that sense.
Okay.
And so this one was already scheduled to be heard by the board, but continued at the applicant's attorney's request so that they could prepare not a defense, their case.
Their responses to the critical area commission comments.
Yeah. And then the second case is Pier 450, which is a violation after the fact variance request, and because we have not settled up on the mitigation plan, they will be requesting a continuance.
Okay.
And so the next continuance date, just if you wanted to consider it, is March 17th.
So I got a question about continuances. Is that something that they actually need to come in front of the board to do? Could they just request it in writing and then we vote on it and be done with it? Because it seems like they come up here, say, hey, I want to give it a continuance. We're like, okay, we give you a continuance. Is there any reason why we would not approve a continuance?
Well, there is the possibility that you would not approve a continuance. So do they personally have to appear? Perhaps not. I mean, but for a continuance, the hearing has to be opened, and the request has to be before you. Could that request come in writing? But then the board does have to have a motion, a second, and a vote to approve the continuance in open meeting. So it's not something you could decide outside of the mirror.
So something like right now, where we are wrapping up, planning the next meeting, talking about the next meeting.
Yeah.
If they sent and said, we request a continuance, you bring that as in a written form to us, we could vote on it right now to continue. And then we wouldn't have to schedule them to come here for a continuance.
Well, except that we can't open next week's hearing yet because it would be premature. So hearings always have to be advertised minimum 15 days in advance.
Okay.
And of course they have to send out the letters and they have to post the signs. So everyone has been lawfully notified that any decisions about that, any discussion, won't occur till next week. So this is non-binding discussion. We're just talking about it.
Right, we're talking procedural.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get us into a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But it seems like we spend a lot of time with people coming forward saying, I'm here to request a continuance. And in my very short amount of time on the board, I've never seen one disapproved. So why do we have to go? I know you have. You've been here forever.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I think it's in their best interest to show up in person, to show they're sincere, and in case any questions come up, they can answer them. But, I mean, legally, I suppose they don't have to.
Well, I guess in theory as well, there could be somebody in opposition that would oppose a continuance and would want to make a case for this board to move forward with the hearing that the originally scheduled evening. And so I think from that point of view, we certainly want to call the case and have the applicant make a formal request for a continuance. Now, we've never had that happen where somebody actually opposed a proposed continuance, but it is possible.
Okay.
Well, like the one night where, on the one hand, we were shutting it down because we were over capacity, there were a lot of people in the room who would have liked to get the board to not grant a continuance that night.
Yeah, and actually, we've been talking about
Yeah,
that
he and
case.
I talked about that offline, just talking about procedure and
Yeah.
everything. Because my question was, why couldn't you hear from public in that instance? And he answered my question with the, not only what it's in writing, but also talking about the technicality, how the technicality, even though you can technically do it, doesn't mean it's a good idea. So it would open up a can of worms we just don't want to open up. So,
It's nice when things go according to plan.
so that's my question with the continuance is, we seem to talk about granting continuances, we grant them a lot, and then it's like, it seems like a lot of time we spend on that maybe we could do a different way, but if it works, if it's what
The
we
more
need.
common continuance is that you continue the case because you couldn't get it done.
Right.
And, but these I mean, to some degree, you could blame staff that we didn't get things prepared far enough in advance, and that's why people are trying to say at the last minute, whoa, I'm not ready. Well, if we had been better informed about not being ready, we never would have scheduled it.
Well,
Okay.
I guess the other thing that could happen is we could have two board members not be here, and then we always offer the applicant the opportunity whether to go forward or not, and then he may want to not go forward and request a continuance.
Right.
And that was the technical reason you had the continuance the night that we were overcrowded, is that there were only 4 members.
Right.
And the applicant has the prerogative to ask for a continuance.
But this is a continuance they are going to ask for, or expected to ask for.
Yes,
so.
yeah, and again,
A
it's,
little bit different scenario.
yeah, and the scenario, I mean, I'll, raise my hand and say, had we thought it through better, been better prepared, gotten the case sent to the Critical Area Commissioner farther in advance, we should not have scheduled the case. Part of the trouble with the Passante Close case is it got, it's been on and off with this, so anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, got it. Understood. Thank you for answering my question.
Anything else for the good of the cause?
Let's go home.
Doug will be here next week?
I will be here next week, and I think this is 2 hearings in a row that, the other one we did, was it 4 cases plus the reconsideration, and we're out early? We were out by 9. And here,
Reconsideration could have been done a lot quicker. I did not say that.
well, you want to adjourn, and then you can continue your comments. But anyway, this is pretty impressive, getting 2 full hearings out of the way and out the door by 8.
Yes.
I'll expect Stacy to be just as efficient after I leave.
Most definitely.
Is there going to be a replacement? I mean, do we have one named or found or?
Well, Stacy is assigned to be here.
Okay. And maybe she's going to apply.
I would encourage her to do so.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
Thank you all very much. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn, sir?
Second it.
All in favor? Good. We're adjourned.